In this video, which is part 43 of the Coinmarketcap Chart.js Series, we're going to work on the tooltip, and more specifically, we're going to add the first line in the tooltip, which is the date and the time. As you can see here, and as I move my cursor, the time and date will adjust accordingly. So let's start to look how we can do this. So now let's continue on. And what we're going to do now is we're going to solve the tooltip information. As you can see here, we have this blank tooltip now. Let's put in the text. And what is the text? Well, we're going to copy and duplicate the Coinmarketcap style of it, where we have on the top, at the left side, we will have the date. At the right side, we will have the time. So let's do that first. So I'm going to scroll down here. We're going to look for the custom tooltip object. There we are, the custom tooltip object. And then within here, what we're going to do is in here, we'll start to work on the following. So what I want to do here is, first of all, I need to make sure I can grab the date. And the date will be, of course, based on our cursor. So we need to do a few items here, but luckily we already did this before, so I will be very fast through that. So I'm going to say here the constant date cursor. And in here, what we're going to say is new date to create a new date object. And then what I want to do is here, I want to say x.getValue for pixel. And basically what I'm going to get is the pixel value and then of the mouse move.offset. So if you're familiar with this, it looks very much like the scroll point that we had done earlier in the crosshair area. So it's very similar to that, except here we have now the date here. We're just going to grab this one like that. So once we have that, the next item, what we need to do here is getting, because now we only get the pixel variable, and then we're going to get the value of it. But this value, of course, is not matching with our data point, because it will show us including the, as you can see here below, all the minutes and seconds. So, or milliseconds. So what I need to do here is I need to set this back into 0. So I'm going to say here date index equals, and then what I want to say here is I will get here the dates, because I want to get the index of it as we hover. So it's a date index of, and then within here, what I'm going to say here, I will get the date cursor, and then we're going to do here dot set hours, and then we put it on 0 for hours, minutes, seconds and milliseconds. So once we have that, we should have now here, of course, the same old item what we did in other areas as well. So we save that, refresh, open up developer tab, and you can see here we're getting this. Alright, next thing what I will notice, and this is the only thing that I find kind of weird, but I will figure that out eventually, is when we open up our console log, we get a second bar here, only on this part, or on tooltip, only somewhere in the center. Why this happens is probably, I just figured out as well, is because of the item here. It changes, so it calculates now from the, or it recalculates here that we are basically at the end. Because if you look at it, it thinks now we're at the end here, which is correct on this chart. But somehow when we resize it, it doesn't understand that we have resized the chart, and because of that, the right side changed. Anyway, doesn't matter for now. This is just, I guess, a tiny bug, but this is only when we open up the console log. If we refresh, you will not see it anymore. So that is something I have to figure out, but I will cover it eventually. Anyway, so now we have this, we have the index here, and what I want to do now is start working on drawing the text or writing the text. So I'm going to say a text date, and the text date will be set on the left side. So I'm going to say ctx dot. Then I'm going to say a text align, and a text align will be equal to left. So I'm going to put the text on the left side, which is by default already, but I just want to make sure. Next, what I want to do here is ctx dot fill style and give it a color. In this case, I'll just give it the color white. And once I have that, another item is ctx dot font equals, I'm going to say a bolder or bold, it's up to you, 12 pixels. And then I'm going to say the font family will be sans serif. So once I have that, I want to then write the text. Say ctx.fill text, and our fill text will be, well, we can stay here. Let's put in here a string value. Later on I will adjust that. And then we have the fill text, and then we have here the X and Y position. So the X and Y position will depend, of course, based on our mouse cursor. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to say here dot, and then we have here the X and Y tooltip. Get here this, and then probably we need to add up some items on here. And let's convert that first to a Y tooltip. And what I mean by add up, we need to probably push that a little bit to the right. So if I save this now and just see how this works, you can see here what is happening. We are pushing it, and probably we have to push to the right, but also down to the bottom a little bit more. So what I'm going to say here, first of all, here we can just say here maybe 5 pixels. And then for the tooltip up, I'm going to say plus, I guess maybe we can say 10 pixels. If I save that, refresh. Alright, that is slightly better, but what I want to do more is what we can say here, the baseline, because the baseline is right now up, I'm going to put it in the center or in the middle. That's the right term. So I'm going to say here, enter, ctx.text baseline equals middle, save, refresh. So then, as you can see here, that looks slightly better. Beautiful. And you can see here, if we hover, I guess this doesn't maintain it, but that's alright. Eventually I will have to probably move this function elsewhere, but that's later on. So we have this one now, and this is the date. It's a fixed text, so let's convert this text now properly. So for this, what we need is, well, basically we could just get here the information, if I'm not mistaken, it's this one here. Let's see, we can get here the date cursor. I'm going to put that in there. Dot, and then we say here to local date and string. If I save that, refresh, then move this, there we are. So now we have the date, and of course you can convert this to however you want it, but it's the local in my current time zone, so you can check there what is the US standard, or you have the international or the European standard. Depends on yourself. Anyway, so we have this one here, and that's the first one. So once I did this, I'm going to say ctx.restore to undo anything we just did above. The next one is, because now we have the text date, what I want to do now is I want to have here is the, well, basically the time. So the time, I'm going to say here right, and let's put in here text time. This is right, we'll maintain that one. For this, I'm going to give it a slightly different color, which is light gray. It's very similar to the Coinmarketcap style. We have here this, and then here I'm going to make this 10 pixels instead of 12. And what I will do, well, I will leave the boulder. I guess that's fine. Then we have this. If I save this now, let's see what happens. If I move here, alright, so we have the, of course, the item needs to move. Secondly, we need to make sure we have the time item here. So let's first of all have this. And then what we want to do here is we have the alignment of right. And what we know about the tooltip is this. We look at the tooltip right now, and the tooltip has a certain width, which is 150. So what we can do is we can say here plus 150 and see how that will work, or see how it's being positioned. So we say here 150, and then what I want to do here maybe is to at least, because 150 is the full width, but we have still 5 pixels of padding, very similar to our tooltip. At the left side we have 5 pixels space, so on the right side I want to do that as well. So instead of 150 we want to deduct it as well, minus 5, so it's 145 basically. Alright, so I'm going to save this, refresh. Now there we are, we have it positioned on both sides. What we can do now is, before I even continue on, I forgot to adjust the time. So what we're going to do now is to time. Let's put in the time here. How do you do the time? You might say here this, and then you say date string or time string. Sadly enough, this will not work. If I do it like that, save, refresh here, or sorry, that's not string, but it's the time string. Save, refresh. So if I do this, you can see here, for some reason, it will stay always solid on a fixed amount of 12:00 or 12 noon or midnight. So I cannot do this. Why? I don't know. This is the only one that is kind of tricky. So what we need to do here is just grab this entire item, copy that, and put it in here. So once we do this, then we save, then we refresh. There we are, and now you can see the time adjust nicely. So again, once we did our item here, this all works accordingly. So the next part, and I will cover in the next video, is we're going to put in the next line. Basically, we have the price, and then we also will grab the volume in there as well.